Welcome to the No Guilt Fangirls Podcast, where liking what you like is never a bad thing. Here's your host and head fangirl in charge, Patty Holiday.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to the No Guilt Fangirls Podcast. I'm your host and head fangirl in charge, Patty Holiday. We are in the final stretch of my most favorite show ever to date. I think I can confidently proclaim Schitt's Creek as my most favorite show that I have ever seen in my entire life. And guys, I'm old. I've seen lots of great shows out there, but this one just has my heart. It has so many wonderful, beautiful things. And I think a lot of you who are watching the show get it, and you know what I mean. One of those people is my friend Jamie. Jamie, say hi.
Hello.
And Jamie is the one that talked me into this, into watching the show, and she's been holding my hands as we text each other while we watch each episode. And here we are into our last two episodes, the double season finale, which is also the series finale of season 6 of Schitt's Creek. And we got to talk about it. Of course we do. We got to. We just finished watching it. So also our thoughts are very, very fresh on this one. So we're going to just jump right in here. If you are listening for the first time, please note this is completely spoiler filled. And this episode has a lot of really great stuff happen in it. So be aware. If it's been fun and games up to this point and you've enjoyed listening, even though you haven't watched the show yet, cool. Like, you're welcome to stay. But I just want you to know this is where things are getting really, really deep. Okay. And we're going there right along with the Rose family. So we're going to recap it. Jamie's going to start. This one is called, Start Spreading the News. That's what this episode was. And it was so good. It was so good.
It was amazing. And there's just so much.
There is
so much.
So let's just jump right in. Yeah.
Okay. So the Roses start in the motel. They're having breakfast the way we all should, with mimosas. And we're talking about their future. Alexis going into PR, David expanding the Rose Apothecary empire, and Johnny and Moira moving to New York City. And David's looking a little morose, kind of a little bit bummed, but we're celebrating. We're in full celebration mode. And then we see Roland outside in his brand new truck with all the bells and whistles. And him and Jocelyn are there, and Jocelyn breaks the news about Sunrise Bay, which you can tell catches Moira off guard. She thought that if there was going to be a reboot, she would be a part of it.
Well, if you remember, she kind of put them on notice. She knew her worth, right? And she said straight up, this is what I'm worth. This is what I want. If you're not going to give it to me, then I'm not going to be part of this. And so when she gets this news from Jocelyn, like Sunrise Bay didn't even contact her and tell her. She was like, well, I guess I know how they feel about me. And I have to say, I was very impressed with the way Moira took this. She took it very matter of fact. There was not a lot of theatrics. There wasn't a lot of drama. She was just like, okay, then. I don't think there was any regret there. Did you feel like, I felt like she was like, hey, if they don't want me, they're not worth my time.
Yeah, absolutely. She, like you said, she took it amazingly well, very almost un-Moira-like in a way. But yeah, she just held her head high and moved on, and it was amazing. So then we move on to Stevie and David. David comes into the lobby to talk to Stevie to kind of feel through kind of what he's going through, and mentions, well, when we moved to New York, and Stevie stops him and is like, I'm not moving to New York.
And he definitely hadn't thought about that. He just assumed she was coming, because if you flash back to the beginning of this season, and even the end of the previous season, like, she was searching for something. She needed some change. She needed something kind of big and something exotic. And we all, as evidenced by her wanting to be a stewardess, being a flight attendant for a short period of time, we all thought maybe Stevie was really pushing to get out of Schitt's Creek. And interestingly enough, she dialed that back, and she's like, nope, I'm good. She is going to be traveling, and there is going to be some excitement in her life, but she doesn't need to go to New York. She doesn't want to.
Yeah, and what I loved about that is that she was so, as much turmoil as she is going through the beginning of the season, she was 100% confident in her choice.
Oh, 100%. I have to point this out that I think every single character, especially as we saw in this episode, has exhibited such a huge amount of change over all these seasons. And Stevie, as you know, we've already discussed this. Like, I have a love hate. Like, sometimes I liked her, sometimes, she was fine. And I was just never really in love with her. This one, I was like, I see you, Emily. I see you, and I love this. And it was awesome. She was beautiful and incredible. I mean, she's always been great, but really, I felt it in these scenes that she had. And maybe it was because I love her with Eugene Levy, but I really felt like we didn't get a lot of Stevie and David this season. And so I kind of wanted that. And so this was very heavily Stevie and David together, and it was great.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. So yeah, it was kind of nice to see Stevie kind of come into her own and feel good about it. So then next we go to probably the most shocking scene reveal of the whole season. Alexis brings clothes to Twyla at the cafe, and they just have a real sweet moment, kind of going through some clothes and talking about what they should do, or what's going to happen next and everything. And we find out that Twyla has won the lottery for a cool about $46 million.
Yeah, sweet Twyla. This entire time they have been living in Schitt's Creek, and she has been their waitress. Turns out she's a gazillionaire, and is sitting on all this money. And again, I thought I've really enjoyed watching Sarah Levy through the entire series. Part of it is Twyla's character is just so quirky and so hilarious, and it's just great. But the other part, really, here, like, she also got a moment to really shine from an acting perspective. They gave her some good stuff to work with, and it was awesome.
Yes. And as an aside, I don't know if you're going to reveal the text that you sent me that made me the most jealous human being I think I've ever been in my life.
Well, of course I am. All right. So at the end of this episode, guys, I pull up Twitter, and actually it was like I was watching it live when it was coming on, and it was the last commercials. And because I wanted to see what stinger, they had at the end, which I assumed it would be like a flashback kind of thing. It wasn't anything. They in other words, they did not give us a glimpse of the wedding. Yep. So we didn't get any of that. It was just sweet. It was a very sweet montage though. But while I was waiting for that, I was tears in my eyes. I wrote this tweet and I sent it out, and I tagged both Dan Levy and Sarah Levy, because like I said, just both of them in this show, because you got to remember that Dan Levy is not an actor. Like, he's been short, small things, kind of, side whatever characters or whatever here and there and stuff. But this series was his first true like acting. And oh my gosh, this episode,
oh my gosh,
he was amazing. Amazing. Yes. And so anyway, at the very end there, I sent this tweet out, and it said, "Before tonight, I only thought I loved Dan Levy. Y'all, please watch Schitt's Creek for this episode alone. Daniel, your scenes are beautiful. Sarah Levy, you shined. Hashtag Schitt's Creek." And guess who liked it?
Oh my God.
Sarah and Dan both liked my tweet. And then I was like, oh gosh, I wish I had tagged Eugene, just because I want Dad to see how proud he should be. I mean, I know he's so proud of his kids, but I was like, I should have tagged Eugene too, just so he might see it, because they were both so beautiful. Both of them. Twyla, she's just been so quirky and so funny and so whatever. And this was just a really sweet way of wrapping things up, and also kind of explaining a lot about her. She mentioned her mom, and when she gave her mom money, how her mom just kind of blew it, and that money changes people, and that's why she doesn't want anybody to know, and she kept it totally on the down low. So it was so sweet. Yeah, it was
It
great.
was. It was. And just a quick aside, again, besides my insanely proud / jealousy of you, I don't know if you watched on Dan's Instagram tonight, but they are doing like a live Insta like fundraiser for food banks, both in a Canadian one and an American one.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of it. I wasn't able to stay on for the whole thing, but I did see a little snippet of it.
It was really cute because Sarah was on there and
Oh, is she?
yeah, and she was talking about, because he's like, well, what's your favorite episode? And she's like, one where I got to actually dress like not Twyla.
That's awesome.
So I thought it was really cute that tonight she got to, at the end, anyway, I'm jumping ahead here.
Yeah.
So then Moira, they're back at the hotel and there's a knock at the door. There's a package, and in the box is the tennis bracelet that Moira gave as one of her demands to rejoin Sunrise Bay.
Yeah, and I screamed as soon as I saw the box.
Yes.
I was like, they didn't. They sent her the tennis. But I mean, I was just sitting there like, I was like, open the box, Moira, open the box. And so when she did open it and I was this blue, I was like, oh, it's a tennis bracelet.
Yes.
Yeah, I was excited for her. Yep.
And she was immediately said yes and was so excited and so overjoyed. And you're right, Patty, what you said earlier, like she knew her worth and she wasn't going to back down, and she made other people see it too. And that was that. And again, like, okay, I know they're actors, but like just seeing how proud Johnny was of Moira, and
oh, for sure.
you know, just beautiful, like hashtag goals, couple goals.
You know, that's the thing, is that so much of this is not only relatable, but admirable, right? You know, you find yourself a man that looks at you like Johnny Rose does, girls. I mean, or guys, I don't care. You know, I'm just saying he really has been the epitome of like holding this family together and the glue through all of this. And yeah, I can't say enough about you. You guys have heard me gush so much about Eugene Levy. All right. Anyway, we got to get back because this one has so much to talk about and I don't want to run out of time.
Okay. So then, and she says yes. So yeah. So then David and Patrick, David goes to Patrick's apartment to talk to him about moving, and is like, why didn't you tell me about the house? And, you know, when did you do it or whatever? And Patrick told him that, you know, after driving by it or whatever, he knew that David wanted it. So he went, again, hashtag couple goals. He went to the house and said, hey, if y'all ever think about moving, call me. I would like to buy this house. And I mean, it was just beautiful. And so, yeah. So then we go to the sorry.
In this scene, we got to talk about Patrick because, again, Noah Reid, beautiful, beautiful performance. I don't know that he necessarily changed or went through any massive transformation through the course of the series. I feel like he's always just been this super solid, sweet guy. But I just was like, look at Patrick. He is so giving and accepting. And he says, yes, I wanted to buy this house and I wanted it to be a surprise for you. And David's like, well, you know, when were you going to tell me? He said, well, after the wedding, because I think you can only handle, you freak out over things. And so I didn't want to overwhelm you. So I thought we would discuss that after the wedding. And I was like, see, he knows him so well, right? Because absolutely this could have, you know, possibly, which I don't know that he was giving David enough credit. David's pretty solidly set on this wedding. Like David's right. This is happening, y'all. This is happening. And for the right reasons, not just because he wants a wedding. I think it's truly, he knows what he has in Patrick.
Yes.
And again, with all of the conflicting, like the emotions and the looks on, I don't know if you guys can hear my family, but everybody's loud. It's like the issues with being at home with everybody as everybody is, but you might pick up some of my family screaming in the background. Anyway, I thought that the scene was so lovely done because he definitely had this, hold on. Seth! Shut up! He is the loudest little dude I have ever met in my entire life. I should definitely leave that into the recording.
1,000%.
Anyway, Patrick has always been super supportive, and he sees David for who he is and what he needs. And that was just one example of it. But he also then said, or I guess David comes and says, why don't you want to go to New York, or what's wrong with New York? And Patrick is like, it's hard to get excited about something you've never even visited.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I just don't understand, I didn't understand it. But if this is what you need, I'm willing to go, and I'll get to see a Yankees game at Yankee Stadium. And Patrick, bless him, he was like, it's fine. Like, this isn't what I expected. This isn't what I thought was going to happen. I thought we were staying here, blah, blah. But he looks on the bright side, and he's like, we can take the store and, open it up to a much wider audience in New York City, and Yankees game, and your family's going to be there. I mean, he's a solid dude. And I was just like, Patrick, I love you. And you could, if you watch, you see it on David's face, and he recognizes how freaking blessed he is with this guy. But it also starts those wheels turning a little bit more. So,
yep.
All right. So,
yeah.
Back to, we are now at the Jazz Girls.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Jazz Gals are all wearing I Heart NYC shirts, and they're so excited and ready to support Moira, because who needs a reboot anyway, and they're dummies for not taking her. And
they were so cute. They had her back like 100%.
Yes. And then Moira tells them, oh, no, I actually am going to be a part of the reboot. And they're like, oh, we love reboots.
I know. Then suddenly it was like, oh, wait, no, we really do love reboots. This is great.
Yeah. And they just, they love their friend, and they just want to support her the best way they can. And the best part of this scene was Ronnie. 1,000%.
1 bazillion%. Yeah, no, Ronnie had me crying.
Yes.
So great. And she was crying because, and that was just so unexpected, because you know how Ronnie's been with Moira the entire time.
Right.
And then when she realized she really was leaving, and she was leaving like immediately,
Mm-hmm.
She had that moment. And it was, again, another little, we didn't dwell too much on it. It was just the right amount of time that we spent with her, but the emotions were there, and it felt just, everything feels so real in this show. It just feels like there's connection, and there's love. And it comes out. They just did such a great job with this episode. So yeah, that happened. Oh, Ronnie.
Yes. And I'm such an empath that, like, when, I can tell that, like, half of it, like, they're really, really crying because,
I think they were.
all of this is ending. Anyway. Okay. So then Twyla comes over to talk to Alexis, because Alexis had given her a really sweet talk about how it's okay to spend some money as long as it's on something that you love and enjoy and makes you happy and brings you happiness. So Twyla comes over and tells Alexis that she has bought the cafe, and Alexis is really surprised. She was like, I thought like a necklace or something, but Twyla buys the cafe, and then she has an envelope there, and she tries to give it to Alexis, and Alexis opens it, and you realize it must be a really good amount of money that we're talking about here. And in probably one of I'm such a mom moments, I was so proud of Alexis, because she's like, I can't do this. If I'm going to do this on my own, I'm going to do it on my own.
Yeah, and yes, I was very proud of her too. Could she have taken that money and it still would have been, I think it would have been okay. And I think it would have been a total friendship gesture, and she was not taking advantage of Twyla in any way, shape, or form. And they both could have walked away feeling good about it, and it would have been sweet as well.
Yep.
But I'm with you that I was like, oh, Alexis, I know how hard that hurt you, sweetie.
Yes. Yes.
And by the way, what is Twyla wearing?
She's wearing one of Alexis's dresses.
Yes. It's so great. It's so great.
Yeah, it was so cute because, like I said, she was so excited on the Instagram Live about dressing up. And I was like, oh, here we are. And then we go back to David and Stevie sitting on the roof of the car, or the hood of the car, in front of the house. And this, I might even tear up a little bit just talking about it now. This was the one for me. This is the one that really got me. And they're talking about what what they're going to do and what the future holds and everything like that. And so Stevie asked David, why do you want to go to New York? And, either again, this was raw emotion or Dan Levy holding a master class in acting, but the emotion.
He gets really real. He got really real on this.
Yeah. The emotion, like oh my gosh.
You
and he's like,
feel it. You can
yes,
feel it. And again,
yes,
back to talking about how real these relationships feel and how potent and powerful they are. This scene was it. This was the culmination of the entire, so far. I mean, who knows what they're going to do to us next week, but this scene was that culmination of the relationship with Stevie and David that started off from the beginning with the whole towels and everything. Yes. And it was beautiful on both sides. Both of them did this amazing job. And yeah, that the emotion on Dan's face was so, you just hurt for him because he was working it through and he was working it out. And he's with Stevie, who he can finally tell the truth. And she even says, I still can't figure out what goes on inside your head. And he laughs and he says, join the club. But it's not funny because the look on his face, that was him being so raw and so real right there in that moment, that he's like, yeah, I don't know either, and then they have this whole discussion and they get deep and she's like, why do you want to, or he goes, why did Patrick do this? Who does this? And this was one of the best Stevie David moments, was like, she's like, good people do things like this. Hence the reason that we don't understand it. I just love how self-aware the two of them are, yes. They know they're terrible people on one hand, they're not that terrible, but they know where they land, and they can be that way together. And they are the only two that like really get each other on that level. And that was awesome. So then Stevie, she lays it out. This is where she says, why do you want to go to New York? You hated it there.
Yes. And he just breaks down and is like, because I have to prove it to those people who left me, who abandoned me, who didn't believe in me.
Mm-hmm. He says, I have to prove that I'm not a joke, that I won. Yes. And the line of the episode was, you won. Look at this place. Look at what you won. Look at what Patrick wants to do for you. Look at Patrick. I mean, you won. What are you talking about?
Yes.
And then she follows that up with, he says something about, friends in New York. She's like, what friends? They're not coming to your wedding. They have something else to do. And she just says it matter of fact. And she just lets him know. And he takes it. And again, no theatrics, just like Moira, he was like, accepting. And I think that he had to hear that in order to get that head in that right space. And it had to come from Stevie, right?
Yeah. And he had to kind of work through it on his own too.
Mm-hmm. For sure. This was, like I said, this episode was, I was so uncomfortable and almost in pain for him, like through half of it, because it was so obvious how he was feeling. He didn't know what to do. He was torn and he really didn't know what to do. But then we get to the final scene and but this is the second to the final scene. So now we're back at the motel.
Yep. So we're back at the motel and we have a pizza, and Dan had a really funny line about that, but I don't remember what it was. So they're sharing pizza and talking about what their plans are. And we find out that Johnny and Moira are moving to California so they can continue to be together, which again, love that. And then, Alexis is like, well, at least we'll be together, David. And then David stands up and says, I have something to say, and lets them know that he's staying there with Patrick, with his husband. And it was just really beautiful because you just know that that's where everybody was supposed to be.
Yeah, and that was actually something very telling. I think 2 or 3 times in this episode, Dan calls Patrick my husband.
Yes.
And they're not married yet, but
right.
he is. He's there. It's happening.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and then, they all just kind of realize that they're all going on their separate journeys, but that's what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the final scene is David pulls up to the house with a blindfolded Patrick, and Patrick's like, "Where are we? What are we doing?" And David takes the blindfold off, and Patrick sees that they're at the house, and was like, "What's going on?" And he's basically tells him, "This is our life, and I want to be wherever you are. It doesn't matter where it is
Mm-hmm.
geographically, but you are you are my home," basically.
Yeah, and he says to his parents, he says, you know, I think we're gonna stay. I don't think I'm finished with this place. I'm not ready to mess that up
Yes.
yet. I think he says
Yes.
yet.
Yes.
And so it just made me laugh because I mean, he's a hot mess. He knows he's a hot mess. He knows likely somewhere, someplace there's gonna be something, but for right now, this is what he needs, and
Right.
this is what he wants. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's just beautiful. And so then he tells Patrick that he put an offer in on the house. And Patrick says, "Okay, so when you did that, what exactly does that mean?" And David's like, I don't really know."
Yeah, he's like, basically, you'll need to call them.
Yeah. And so so they didn't give us scenes from next week, which I'm glad about. And yeah, that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was amazing. It was, so much of this. There was so much writing on this entire series, and there were some moments where we just weren't super excited about it all. But I will tell you that I don't know a couple of episodes back, 5 or 6, something like that. I can't remember which episode it was now. Where I've just felt like since then we've been building and building in the right way, and
Yeah.
I can't wait for next week. I don't truly think I'm going to get my dance of all of them together like I want. I think it's probably going to be something else, but if I got that,
I don't know. I think you might.
I might not be able. I might not be able to podcast. I might be just sobbing so much, or the podcast is just going to be like, they got married and it was beautiful in the past. That could be what happens next week. We don't know yet, guys. But anyway, it's been a blast and it's been beautiful. And I have been so honored that you talked me into watching the show, took me on this ride with you, and
now you're gonna make me cry again.
Oh gosh, I just feel like the Schitt's Creek fandom is a beautiful place. I have to tell you. So I'm like super into Facebook, and I know you don't Facebook, but I am super into Facebook, and I love Facebook groups, y'all. I am a Facebook group junkie. All right, so I am in a handful of Schitt's Creek Facebook groups, and I'm also recently in a handful of Tiger King Facebook.
Oh my gosh.
And if you can imagine polar opposites of the world and the examples being set on social media between the two groups, holy cow, y'all. Schitt's Creek people, it's like Stevie said, good people do
Yes.
that. Like that's who this show pulls in and who this show brings in. And there's very few drama. There's very few ugliness in there. It's really like this whole, in all of the groups. It's not even just one group that's so special like that. They're like all like that. And I'm like, it's Schitt's Creek. And it is what Dan and Eugene put together and created with all of these amazing actors and cast and directors and writers. And it's gorgeous. And I love it. And I'm so happy to be part of this.
That's awesome. Yeah, even tonight, like again, not just trying to go back on that, Instagram live thing, but they're doing it every night this week. And tonight they raised over $30,000 for food banks.
Love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody pay attention then to your Instagram, and you are going to want to watch those. I don't know if I need to go to Dan's feed and see if it's still like, I don't pay enough attention to Instagram. It's my least favorite of the social media platforms. So while I hang out there, I don't live there. I live on Twitter and then vacation on Facebook and visit Instagram sparingly. So I'm not sure if we can still see the live, if it's going to pop up anywhere, but definitely be paying attention then all this week because that's worth it.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I definitely recommend it.
All right, awesome. All right, well, thanks for fangirling Schitt's Creek with me again, Jamie, and we'll be back next week with all the tissues and all the crying and all the sobbing, and it'll be good. It'll be good.
RSVP me for absolutely.
Love it. Love it. All right. Thanks for fangirling with us, y'all, and see you real soon.
Bye.